Right, okay, so the first things first is we're going to get the masking tape. It's only a little bit, and we're going to rip it up and just stick some random pieces in this box that says masking tape. Okay, put a big chunky piece in or just little tiny pieces. So I'm just going to put them 4 pieces in there. Right, and then I'm going to get water on my paintbrush. I'm going to pick a colour from my palette. I think I'll go for blue. I'm going to mix that in and make sure I've got lots of pigment on my brush. You see that's quite wet there. There we go. And then I'm just going to do a wash over the masking tape. Okay, nice and quick. I'm not being too precious. I'm just going to go over the top. There we go. Right, now, while you've still got your wet palette there, on this wet on dry box, that's wet paint on dry paper, just have a go doing some wet lines. You could do lines, or you could do little circles, little zigzags, whatever you like, but that's wet. That's a wet brush that we want. And then the one underneath is dry on dry, so we actually want quite a dry brush. So I'm going to pick the next palette along so there isn't any water on there. I'm going to pick up as much pigment as I can, but I'm not using any extra water. So that should be quite dry, really. You see, you can't see much reflection on it. It's quite a dry palette. So now underneath, I'm going to try dry on dry, and this should look more should have more texture in it. Let's have a look. There, you see, like that. So do a few little marks, different directions, and you can see how it's completely changed from this clean fluid line to now a lot more texture and a lot more wispy. Okay, alright, so have a go at those. We are going to go and do the next one, which is the graded wash. So this is probably the hardest one. I'm going to go with red for this one to start with. Okay, so for the graded wash, we can just go from a very pigmented colour and then water it down gradually until it's very transparent and pale. So we'll do that first. So what we're going to do, get lots of pigment up here, not overly wet, but certainly enough so it's just a bit shiny like that, you see. Okay. Okay, so then I'm going to run it along the top like this, maybe a couple of lines like that. Now I want it to go lighter, so I'm literally just going to plop my brush in there, wipe off the excess water, and then now do the next bit. Okay, you'll see how that's getting lighter, and then we'll do the same again. Put the paintbrush in, pull it out, and then do the next bit. Okay, so it's gradually getting lighter and lighter. And then I'll put the brush in one last time, scrape off all the excess water, and finish off that. Okay, don't worry if you go over the black print, it's not going to bleed or anything. There you go. Now if you want to be a bit more clever, I mean there's nothing wrong with that, that looks really good, but if you want to go in with the second colour and go from the bottom, you can. So I'm going to put my, it's a bit of a muddy yellow here because it was a bit dirty, but I'm going to go in with a little bit of yellow, and then I'll just go from the bottom upwards just to give it a second kind of colour. So I've put a bit of colour in there, then I just need to put it back in the water, pull that out, drain the excess off, and then just blend that into the middle like that. Yeah, so there you go. So you can put 2 colours in if you want, or just go from one colour down to clear. Alright, so go and have a go at doing that now. Right, this next one's one of my favourite ones. It's the Wax Crayon Resist. You can do whatever you want in here, crisscross circles, your name if you want to. I've put this Humpty Dumpty on just because I like to use this Wax Crayon Resist technique for doing walls. Do you know how long it can take to draw every individual bricks? I'll show you what I mean. So I'm going to quickly go over 3 lines across. I'm going to split them into bricks. There we go. So you can see that just about on this screen. Right, so then I'm going to go in with my reds and browns. Start with a bit of red there. I'm going to start going in there. Then I'm going to pick up a bit of brown, different brick colours. Still quite red. I'll go in for a bit even more brown this time. Then the last different orangey red. There we go. You see what I mean? So that the bricks sort of shine through. So I've always quite enjoyed that technique for bricks. Okay, so you have a go with that. Do any shapes you want. You don't have to do bricks. And we'll see what you come up with. Right, this next one's the colour bleed, which is quite a fun one. So you want your brush as clean as possible. So put it in some, get it as clean as you can, take as much ink off. Right, and then we're going to colour in all of that hair, but just with water. Okay, I'm going to try and stay as close as I can to the edges. But again, don't be too precious about it. Okay, so I've filled that with water. I'm going to show you a second, see if you can see it reflecting. There, can you see it's all shiny where the hair is, because that's all wet. Right, and then what I'm going to do is pick a few colours. I'm going to go in with blue first, get it nice and wet. And then I'm just going to drop some colour in here. So I'm not sweeping it through, I'm just pushing it in, I'm like poking the colour in. And then I'm going to pick some red down here. If it looks like it's getting too dry, just pull some more water over, put some more water in, and then blot it like that, and just watch the colours bleed into each other. And then I'll do one more, I'll put some yellow in, see how this goes. And then I'll plot on that side. That doesn't look quite as vibrant as I'd hoped, so I'm going to put some bit more water in, let it bleed out. Okay, that's not bad though, that's alright. I might put a bit more water in just to make it bleed a bit more. There we go. Okay, have a go at that one. Right, so the tissue dab and the bubble wrap, I'm going to go over both boxes with this. I think I'm going to use blue, so quite wet but not soaking, just, you know, a nice wet wash. See there, I've mixed in a lot of pigment. And I'm going to just quickly go over the top of those two boxes. But in the bottom one where it says bubble wrap, I'm going to press my bubble wrap on and then peel it away. And you can see it leaves these little boxes, these little circles, sorry. And then tissue dab, I'm taking out a little bit of tissue and I'm just going to dab away little bits and see what I get left with, what textures I get left with. And you could even, if you wanted to, go over that again with a different colour. Just experiment. I'll not go over the bubble wrap because I like that. I might just go back over this tissue dab one. See, I'm not being too precious so it's sticking to the lines. And then I'm just going to go in again and just dab it away again. Just to see the texture you get. It's just a different kind of effect to the bubble wrap. Okay, and then this last one is self-explanatory. This is fingerprint. If you've already got some wet pans, just go in with your finger and just have a little play around with using your fingertips. I want to do some blue as well. And then just see how it goes. Fill it in with different colours, some wet fingerprints and then some slightly drier ones. You get a different effect with that. Again, don't be too precious, we're just having a little play with it, or use your fingertip to kind of colour in areas. Okay, there you go. Alright. Right, okay, so I'm going to peel off this masking tape now. It's nearly dry. It's dry enough. Peel that off and you see what you get left with. Let's peel off the rest. Yes. If you've got time, you can then reposition these pieces back over again and then put another colour wash on, and then you build up these white spaces. But for now, just to make this even more interesting, what I'm going to do, so I'm going to pick a separate colour because I've put masking tape and splatting. So I'm going to get this red nice and wet, and then I'm going to splat some colour over the top just to finish it off. So to do that, get it nice and wet on your brush. You're going to hold your brush like this with your finger here, go over the area and then just tap it like that. Tap the top and it'll just splat on gently, okay? Don't need to go mad, just a little bit. Alright, brilliant. And what I was meant to say earlier is when you're doing the hair, if you've got excess water up here, you could drip it as well. So I'm holding it like this. I want to see if any of it drips out of the hair. Let's hope it does. It's not quite doing it, it's not quite wet enough. Oh, I just blew it to encourage it there, seeing that's dripped out. So you can have a go dripping on that bit as well. Okay, so that's your sheet done.